All right, Jeff Zimmerman here with Ernesto. Tito Mercado got his big fight coming up against Jonathan Montrel, June 14th, Madison Square Garden at the theater on the undercard of Hitchins versus Kambosos. How you doing, Tito?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Excited for this fight. Man, I mean, it's in New York, so man, what more can I really say?
Yeah, man, I feel like every time I talk to you, it's like you're going through a progression. The first couple times you were self-promoted. You're like, I'm just here to do my job, knock these guys out. You weren't worried about being with a promoter. You're just, you know, head down and working. And next thing you know, man, you sign with Matchroom, and now you're fighting in one of the biggest, most well-known venues in the world.
Yeah. No, yeah, man, like you said, back then I was more worried about, just knocking people out. I wasn't too worried about, being under the radar kind of a little bit because, as far as my, fights being televised and stuff like that. But even now, man, I still feel like I'm just worried about the same things. I feel like I make it easy for promoters to honestly not even really even try to promote me. I feel like I kind of do everything in the ring and, my last fight, people kind of saw me, be vocal a little bit. So I was able to, like I said, man, I feel like I'm easy to be promoted, I guess, in a way. I feel like in a way I'm kind of promoting myself, so I make it easy for the promoters to just get me fights.
Yeah, yeah. And I noticed you're a little bit more outgoing or maybe more vocal on social. Do you is that purposeful or do you feel
Um,
like you are?
like in social, like as far as social media, or like in person, or
Social
just
media.
I feel like I am. I feel like I feel like I'm even more vocal though in person. I feel like that's when it really gets me going. As far as like the last press conference and after the fight interview in the ring, I feel like that's who the real me really came out. I had the lights and everything. That's what I feel like that's when I get the best out of me and who I really am. I want to kind of bring light to different type. But I feel like we need different type of energy. A lot of these guys bring either they're too humble or some of them are just don't know how to really trash talk, man. So I feel like I bring out the best of both worlds, and I feel like people like that about me.
Yeah, man. And you mentioned Pedraza. I mean, former world champion. Was that your coming out party?
I think so. Especially with my last fight being canceled in November, a lot of people were anxious to see me fight. I know a lot of people that flew down there. When I was there interviewing with Eddie Hearn, a lot of people were like, "Man, we came down to see you fight." We're like, they're a little disappointed. So I feel like I had a not like a chip on my shoulder, but definitely pressure to perform really well because I wasn't able to show out the last time. So especially being a former world champion now, his last fight was against Keyshawn Davis. So definitely it was kind of not like I wasn't competing against it, but it was definitely a bar set, right? To be able to be compared to those guys who now he obviously is a world champion. So to be able to do what I did to him the way, I feel like I did it better than Keyshawn, worse. I feel like it shows where I'm at in my level, and obviously I feel like I'm ready for a title shot anytime soon.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this. You don't go for the knockouts, you don't look for the knockouts, but they keep piling up.
Yeah, no, they keep piling up. I don't look for it. There's always obviously, I feel like I have the type of power where I could force people to get knocked out. I could force a stoppage or I could force something, but man, every time I just let my hands go for some reason, they either quit in the corner or I end up putting them down. And I'm most of the time I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I'm like, damn, like it's usually within the first 4 rounds. So I'm like, damn, that was quick. Like I wanted to get a little bit more work in, get a little bit more rounds in, so I get that title fight. But it's all good, I'm never gonna be what's we call it ungrateful for early knockout, right? Some people wish they had knockout power, so I'm never gonna take it for granted, I guess.
Yeah, speaking of the star in Frisco, we were talking earlier. Bam Rodriguez was out here, top five pound for pound.
Yeah,
Diego Pacheco, Jose Benavidez Sr. Um, Errol Spence, who I've covered a long time here in Dallas,
yeah,
he knocked out a guy at the Star in Frisco at 2 minutes and 59 seconds, I think in the first round. And
yeah.
he says, I don't get paid for overtime. So,
Right. No, it's definitely I mean, I agree with him. I had a couple first round knockouts. It obviously, it feels good knocking him out in the first round, but sometimes it's like, especially if you had a hard long camp, you want to kind of, I mean, I know it sounds true in a way, but you kind of want to punish the guy for longer. You want to make him suffer for, the weight cut that you've been doing, the hard sparrings, the early mornings, the late nights. You kind of want to make him, pay for everything that you kind of went through. And sometimes knocking him out too quick, it feels like it was just it's an easy outing for him. You know, like sometimes you're like, you see in the movies like, no, don't kill the guy, let him suffer a little bit.
Right.
Like you're giving him an easy way out. That's how sometimes I feel. But no, I mean, like I said, man, I can't take it for granted. Having the knockout power, I guess, in a way.
Listen, man, I know you're young, but everyone knows Mike Tyson, and people paid hundreds of dollars to see him knock out guys in 1 or 2 rounds. So,
Yeah, no, it's
yeah,
entertainment, right? So I mean, like I said, man, I'm very thankful to be uh not only have the knockout power, but I feel like kind of everything. And I'm hoping in these next couple of fights, especially being with a big promoter like Eddie Hearn and the Zone, I'm hoping I'll be able to show that.
let me ask you. I was going to ask you a little bit later, but since we're talking about knockouts, there was a card outside of Madison Square Garden recently
Yeah.
that had all the hoopla, all the pre-fight buildup, outside Times Square and everything, and there wasn't a single knockout.
I think it's not even so much the knockout. I feel like obviously it's important, but the build up they did to it, man. You feel it almost felt like it was being promoted better than Don King was. Back in the day when he was promoting Mike Tyson fights, the whole build up, the card. Obviously there was a lot of good name fighters on there. You would expect it to be probably one of the best fight cards in a long time, and I just felt like the guy just underperformed all of them, even without the knockout. I mean, a lot of guys would have even been okay with the entertaining fight, guys throwing punches, but you had like the Devin Haney fight where those. I think that weekend, I think it was probably the most amount of fights, right, that broke the records for the least amount of punches thrown or landed. I think there
Yeah.
were probably like 3 or 4 fights that weekend, and it was kind of disappointing, man, especially for to be built up like that. That's what hurts boxing, I think.
Yeah, and I know you pride yourself on old school mentality, old school boxing. Do you feel like this money, and again, it's prize fighting, so you can't knock the guys making this kind of money, but you feel like the money being thrown out there, especially from a um Al Sheikh, Turk Al Sheikh, do you feel like there's too much of this, hey, just don't lose kind of mentality?
Um, I don't think so. I think Turkey getting wrong guidance on getting the wrong fighters to fight. I know Turkey likes entertaining fights. I just think whoever is guiding him on picking the fighters that he think might be, I think I think he's mistaken. I think he needs guys like me or guys that just come to fight. Guys like you're talking about Bam Rodriguez, guys that come to fight, or Naoya Inoue, which that one he did a good choice on. That weekend I think he kind of saved the whole weekend right with that fight against him and Ramon Cardenas. But I think he just picked I wouldn't say has been picking because it was just this weekend, but I think for that weekend, I just think he had the wrong selection of fighters fighting that night.
Yeah, and you mentioned yourself as an entertaining, knockout fighter, just entertaining in general. But you're almost at that point where you're high risk, low reward for some
Yeah,
of these guys because those guys have built themselves up via social media, been in, some big fights. Do you worry about that for yourself?
I do, but that's why I'm so excited about this fight, man. We have the IBF North America title on the line and the WBC Continental, I believe, on the line. So now it's kind of like I still may be low reward, but I'm high in the ranking. So what can you really do? And, I know there's always a way of to work around being mandatories and stuff like that. Some guys know how to work around that, but I'm knocking on the door. I think that's the main important part now. I think the biggest concern with a lot of people is that I wasn't being ranked in the organizations, and now I'll finally be able to have that chance. So I think now, I mean, there's kind of like really no option.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned the guy that in a way fought Cardenas that nobody really knew who he was.
Right.
Bam knew who he was because being from San Antonio.
Yeah.
And he told me today he wasn't shocked at all, that what he did. And, because he's worked with him, through the years. And it just goes to show you there's guys out there that may not be household names that, hey, there's a lot of good fighters out there. They just need a shot.
Exactly, man. And like back to my point, with Turkey, kind of wrong selection of fighters. Sometimes they don't always have to be big names. Just because they're Devin Haney's, don't mean they're gonna produce great fights. Sometimes obviously you could go pick guys up sometimes from these local club fights, man. They'll put on some great entertaining fights. Obviously, they might not be the biggest promotion or, sell like the way you want it to, man. But if you want entertaining fights, sometimes what it takes is, looking actually just, being I think not being so much of a boxing fan, but knowing, who could put up entertaining fights, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough to spend a Friday night watching that card, but
even the Saturday night, right? Too, man. You got the Canelo fight, which Canelo big name. I don't blame him so much, but obviously there's certain adjustments he could have made. But the names don't always mean you're gonna get entertaining fights.
Right. So who are you targeting, Tito, after this fight, assuming all goes as planned? Who are you targeting after this?
Realistically, man, I want Hitchins. I think that's the easiest fight to make. He's with the zone. I mean, he's with Matchroom, and
Matchroom.
I'm with Matchroom. So that's the easy fight to make. And after this fight, man, we both will be free. We'll both be, free. Necessarily. I know the WBC. I'll be getting ranked in that one, but I know Puello has a fight against Matias, right? I think after this fight, I mean, we'll both be free, and we won't have nothing coming up. So I think that's the perfect, easy fight to make. Easy.
Yeah. Do you expect him to handle Kambosos?
I expect him to, but I want to be surprised. Just because I don't see too much of Hitchens. And Kambosos, I mean, he does come to fight, but if he does the same game plan that kind of Devin Haney did and just box him, it should be easy night for him.
Yeah.
I don't really see, but I mean, never know, never know.
Yeah, when I was asking Jose Benavides today about the 140, 135, 147, his eyes lit up like the kind of some of the most stacked fights, guys going up and down. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna just throw out the names. You got Rolly, you got Tio, you got Shakur, Tank, Ryan, Devin. Who am I missing? Who do you view as the best out of that bunch today?
Uh, Damn, man, there's so many good guys, from 135 to 147. It's kind of hard. That's really hard. There's just a lot of good guys, but I mean, if I had to say the best guy in terms of like overall, it would probably be between maybe Teal and Tank probably. I mean, then you could argue obviously 47 and Drawn Ennis. I mean, I think maybe them three would probably be the best ones. I
Yeah.
would say.
What Yeah, that's a good call. What do you think of Jaron Ennis and possibly Teal going at it?
I think that'd be a good fight. I think that'd be a good fight. We haven't really seen Boots with like an athletic fighter like that. I know his last, well, not his last fight, but the fight before that, the one in November against I think his name like Kareem or something like that. He
Cameron,
didn't
yeah.
look he didn't look too good, but he was kind of, I guess, somewhat athletic. The guy moved around. And he looks good. So if that fight's made, man, I think that'll definitely be a good fight. They both come to fight at least. So but I could have sworn I saw Tio posted something, I think today or yesterday, that they declined the fight or something like that. But we'll see. Never know.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
for sure. And I'll get you out here in a minute. Canelo Crawford, what do you think about that?
Man, I just think that's too many weight classes. It's just too many. I don't know. Crawford didn't look that good in his last fight against Madrimov. That was at 154. Obviously, two different styles, but he didn't look that good. And I guess the main important thing is one, he's going up too many weight classes, and two, Crawford hasn't fought since that last fight. He hasn't been active. So I mean, going up two weight classes, and I guess necessarily in a way not being active against a guy like Canelo who just fought, not too long ago, who's staying active, having his, I think it's a no brainer in a way. But I mean, Crawford is a skillful guy, man. You never know, but I just don't see it. I really don't.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough. It's he's trying to make history, no doubt. Um,
Yeah.
you got a legend coming out of retirement who's actually going into the Hall of Fame in a few weeks. Manny Pacquiao against Barrios. What are your thoughts on that one?
Oh man, I just find it very crazy how he's able to get in the what was he like top five in the rankings as soon as he got came out of retirement in the WBC. So I just find it very, very crazy how you got a guy like that who hasn't fought in, I think they said, like 5 years, just jump back into it and go back in straight top five into rankings, straight to a title shot. I think it's unfair to a lot of guys who worked hard, to get to there. But man, I wish him the best. I think he's a little too old, but seeing the guy he's fighting, no disrespect to Mario Barrios, is a champion for a reason, but I don't see him as a threat like that, a deadly threat. I just hope it doesn't look like something like a Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, where it's just like, why is that guy even in there, man? Get him out of there.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
but luckily, man, he's not like a huge puncher like that. So I mean, I wouldn't be too worried, but it definitely shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, you may look good in the gym, is what I've heard. He looks good in the gym, but that's not the
Same thing for
same.
Mike Tyson, right? He looks scary in the pads,
Right.
and that kid looks fast. He still looks like he got it, but being out for 5 years, man, and doing the whole presidential thing that he was doing or whatever he was doing, that takes a lot out of you, and it definitely doesn't have your mindset as a killer like he did back then when he was fighting like Marquez and those guys. I don't think he has that same mindset still. So, uh, hopefully, man, whether I mean I could definitely see him maybe possibly winning. I don't really know, maybe because I don't see too much Mario Bars like I said, but hopefully at the end, hopefully he just doesn't get hurt. I guess that I would consider that a win, as long as he doesn't get hurt, I guess.
Sure, sure. And what should we expect from you June 19th, or I'm sorry, June 14th, Madison Square Garden? Um, Another coming out party on a big stage on DAZN. What should we expect?
Man, expect fireworks like always. Expect highlights in and out of the ring, and just expect me, man, to be coming for everybody. I'm gonna make it a statement that I'm coming for Hitchins, and I'm gonna really I'm gonna really make my mark there in New York. He claims that he has a whole New York fan base. That I'm gonna really make a mark over there, and I'm gonna really make it to the point where he wants to fight me next. So definitely expect that.
Awesome, man. I always love talking to you. You keep moving up. Next shot, I'm sure you'll be fighting for a title, and we'll talk again soon. Best of luck in a few weeks.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you.
All right, we'll talk soon, man. Take care.
Take care.